Hi. Okay, so we're gonna start episode 7 now.
The 7th episode of Making a Murderer, entitled Framing Defense, is unsurprisingly focused on the defense's narrative that the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department framed Stephen Avery for murder, and unsurprisingly, that narrative is framed entirely from the defense's presumptions about motive and opportunity. Once again, they never provide any affirmative evidence, such as a witness, surveillance camera footage, or a fingerprint or some DNA of a single sheriff's deputy planting evidence. They merely rely on the inference that because Sergeant Andrew Colburn and Lieutenant James Lank had just been deposed in Stephen Avery's civil lawsuit, they would conspire to commit several felonies and plant evidence against Avery while simultaneously ignoring or even destroying evidence pointing to Teresa Halbach's real killer. And neither Avery's...
Okay, hold on. Wow. He said a lot of stuff there. Hopefully I don't miss anything. The defense is not allowed to talk about anybody else other than Stephen Avery or Brendan Dassey because of this Denny ruling. They're not allowed to introduce any third party specifically by name unless they can meet the requirements, which are means, motive, opportunity, and they basically have to be able to prove that this person killed Teresa in order to name anyone else. So the defense is really stuck by having to just use what they think that they've got with the police planting evidence. I don't believe that they ever, Dean or Jerry, I don't believe that they ever accused the police of destroying evidence that would point to someone else. That would be something completely different. But they are obviously accusing them of believing that Stephen is guilty and planting evidence to help ensure that they get a conviction. Sorry, my cat is weird. Hopefully I didn't miss anything there. A little distracted. Alright, we'll go.
Defense, nor Making a Murderer, ever actually provide any evidence that Teresa Halbach was, in fact, killed by anyone other.
Okay, I remember. He was talking about having some kind of fingerprints, video surveillance, all this other nonsense about any police officer, especially Lank or Colburn, being caught leaving any fingerprints behind or DNA or whatever on any of this planted evidence or catching them in the act, I guess, of planting the evidence. Well, of course not. They're not stupid. Lank and Colburn actually were trained in collecting forensic evidence, collecting blood samples and things like that. And I know I've said it before, I'll say it again, that Colburn is the one who reminded Kucharski before he picked up that key in the bedroom to change his gloves. Okay, so yeah, there's not going to be any proof that they did that. They're wearing gloves. They're not stupid. They're all wearing gloves when they're touching everything. They're not going to leave their DNA anywhere, obviously.
Than Stephen Avery. Not a witness, not surveillance camera footage, not a fingerprint, not DNA. Remember, the defense made it very clear that they were not accusing law enforcement of murder.
The police didn't kill Teresa Halbach, obviously. They have that in common with Stephen Avery.
Yet the only inferential claims they ever make point to either James Lank or Andrew Colburn as the potential killer. Colburn supposedly finds Halbach's RAV4 and then calls into dispatch to confirm the license plate number. That RAV4, remember, had Halbach's blood in the trunk.
That RAV4, remember, was not found for 2 more days. Now, just tell me what sense it makes to call in a license plate number to confirm that you have the right license plate number? I mean, why is he calling in the license plate number? There's a lot of things I want to know about this. What time did he call this in? This call came in on November 3rd from Colburn's personal cell phone, not from his police radio, from his car. He called into dispatch on his personal phone, his cell phone. So I want to know what time, because Colburn was scheduled to be off duty at 8 o'clock. I know that at some point, somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30, I believe, he went out to talk to Stephen Avery for the first time, after getting the information that Teresa was missing, and she was seen at the Zippers and at the Averys. So, like I said, I would like to know what time that call came in. I would like to see if there's any pings or anything to show his location, because that would probably tell us exactly where he was, why was he calling in that number. I can't think of any reasonable explanation other than what the defense came up with, that he was looking at the car when he called it in. I mean, if anybody else has any other reasonable explanation why he might be calling it in, because I've heard random stuff like he was just calling to confirm that he had the right number. You know, why would you do that? You know, if he does not have the right number, if he thinks he might not have the right number, why wouldn't he call into dispatch and say, hey, the missing girl, Teresa Hallback, can you give me her plate number so I make sure I've got this correct? Not the other way around. Can you run this for me? Like I said, I just cannot think of any reasonable explanation that he would be calling that plate in unless he was looking at it. And I have my own theories on how he came across it. There's a couple of different possibilities, and like I said, these are just my own personal theories that, you know, I guess I'll go ahead and tell you now. We'll probably get into it later, maybe, but the roommate, the ex-boyfriend, and the brother, and Pam Sturm. Any combination of those people would have very reasonably been out looking for Teresa on their own on that night that she was reported missing, that they all discovered that she was missing. That is absolutely what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be out looking for her. And I don't care where. I mean, if I heard that she was at this place, I would go there. Okay, I would. This is my sister, my friend, my niece, whatever. My roommate, I would go there. I would go anywhere, looking for her everywhere. Because my ass is not sleeping. I'm going to be finding her. Now, like I said, any combination of these people, I think, did that. They found her car because it was just right on the border of the property. So they wouldn't have had to trespass or take any big chances. They could go in the middle of the night. I don't know how Colburn was the one that ended up out with them to confirm that they had found the right vehicle. I don't know how they got a hold of him personally, but you know, apparently this is just, like I said, my theory, that somehow Colburn goes out to verify that they had found the correct vehicle, and that's why he calls in the plates. And in the background of the video, if you hear that car's here that everybody's talking about, that may or may not be what is said, but if it is, I could make sense of why that would be, that whoever that was that found the car, that called Colburn out there, would be calling the family or calling whoever wasn't there, like the parents, and say, you know, we found the car's here, you know, whatever, to let them know. So if that is there, which, you know, you could hear that that's not doctored, it's played in the documentary, and you can hear it clearly playing it in court, that's said. But anyway, wow, I'm talking for way too long. Sorry. Let me get back to this.
Lang has possession of the key to that RAV4 and supposedly plants it in Stephen Avery's bedroom. Does that mean they found her RAV4, killed her, burned her body in a quarry, and then transferred her cremains to a burn pit right outside Stephen Avery's garage? Did they kill her using a .22 caliber rifle that hung above Avery's bed, loaded with a bullet that had Halbach's DNA on it and was proven to have been fired from that rifle? Or did someone else entirely kill Halbach with that rifle, and then Colburn found her body in a RAV4, say, in the woods somewhere, and then hatched this plot with Lenk? Either claim is a very, very serious allegation of very, very serious criminal wrongdoing, but neither is supported by any evidence other than claims that Lenk and Colburn might have had both opportunity and motive.
Okay. I don't believe that Colburn just happened upon the vehicle on his own. It is possible that he did. It is possible that he decided to, after he interviewed Stephen and decided that, you know, he was satisfied with that very short interview, from what I understand, 5 to 10 minutes, that he decided to just, you know, drive around the property or something and look around. Stephen seemed cooperative, and if he would have happened to catch him out there, you know, I don't think he would have been crazy about it, but, you know, maybe he did find it. Maybe. I don't believe the police planted the car. I don't believe they found it out somewhere else, planted the car, burned her body, planted the remains. I don't believe that the police did that. I believe whoever killed her did that. And it doesn't make sense that that would be Stephen Avery. That it makes sense that it would be someone trying to frame Stephen Avery. And as crazy as it sounds, you know, if I was to kill someone and I'm that bad of a person that I would kill someone, I might also be that bad of a person that I would hate someone enough to frame them and not feel bad that they're going to go to prison for what I did. So, you know, I don't have a problem believing that someone killed Teresa, tried to frame Stephen, knowing that the police would jump all over this. Easy to believe. If they find all this evidence that makes it look like he did it, I believe that they believed he did it. But most of the evidence they had was circumstantial and a very bad coerced confession from Brendan Dassey. Planting a little bit of evidence to try to help secure their conviction, you know, I could see that happening, just like Dean Strang said. Yeah, I can see that happening. As far as well, I think we'll get into that in a minute, so we'll go ahead.
This would be akin to claiming that Stephen Avery killed Teresa Halbach merely because he had opportunity to do so, since she was at his property the day she disappeared, and motive to do so, since he called her employer and even concealed his identity to specifically get her to his property after she said she wouldn't deal with him anymore after his creepiness in answering the door, wearing nothing but a towel on a prior visit.
Okay. I know that he's already said this before, so he's going to make me repeat this again, just in case anyone missed all that the first time. Teresa was not afraid of him. Teresa did not go to her boss at Auto Trader or whatever and say that I don't want to go out there anymore. She did not say she was creeped out by him. She called in to get her assignments for the day and had just a random conversation with the girl giving her assignments over the phone or whatever they're doing, and mentioned that Stephen Avery came to the door in a towel one day, and they laughed about it. That's as far as that went, and that is in her testimony, is what she said. So no, I don't believe that she was creeped out by him. I don't believe she said she wouldn't go out there anymore. I don't believe that she was afraid of him in any way. Just that was a little strange. Yeah, sure, it is a little strange, but I believe he explains that as he's got a pool in the backyard, and he had just come out of the pool. He's got like swim shorts on or something underneath the towel, and unless he was to expose himself, there's no way to know that he didn't have swim trunks on underneath the towel. But yeah, sure, if he doesn't and you believe he's only wearing a towel, that might be a little weird, but it's not a reason to be afraid of someone. It's just something that you might giggle about. I mean, I would. I mean, shit like that actually happens all the time when, delivery people go to people's houses and they are late or early or whatever. Catch them coming out of the shower, they catch them not completely dressed, they catch them in the middle of having some fun or something. It's not that bad, and it's not anything to be afraid of. So, yeah.
Avery had motive, lust, and opportunity. Halbach on his property, but if the state could provide no other evidence linking him to the crime, he could not and would not be criminally charged.
Okay, did he just say lust? That's what it sounded like he said. I don't want to rewind it, but if that's what he said, prove it. I mean, where do you get that from? I mean, you can't prove just because she's a young, attractive girl that he had lust for her. He asked for her specifically because he liked her. He liked her work. He said she was really friendly. She did a good job. Not that it matters because she was the only one assigned to that area. So it wasn't like she was going to possibly, that he was going to have someone else come out. I mean, she was the one assigned to the area. So he calls Auto Trader to get someone to come out to take pictures. It was going to be her whether he asked for her or not. That's just how they do it, apparently. That's in the testimony also.
So it is with Lenk and Colborn, who are accused of serious crimes based solely on their supposed motive and opportunity. They were never charged with any wrongdoing in the Avery investigation. Does that mean the Wisconsin Department of Justice is in on the conspiracy to frame Avery too? How about the U.S. Justice Department? According to the defense, either they were or they turned a blind eye to Lenk supposedly very obviously planting Halbach's key in Avery's bedroom, even though both he and Colborn were never, ever, not once, proven to be alone in that bedroom.
Okay, now, just because they were never charged with something does not mean that they won't be. There has not been an investigation into this nonsense that happened yet. There's a petition asking for a federal investigation of everyone who was involved in this investigation to be investigated. Their conduct, their behavior, the way that they handled the whole thing is a joke, and someone needs to look at it and make sure that people are held accountable for what they did. Yeah, sure. No one could prove that Lenk planted the key because no one was taking a video. But as many searches that went on in that bedroom by other trained officers and detectives, they didn't find it. I'm sorry, but it's hard to believe, and you should question that it was found. No, they were not ever alone in the bedroom. They weren't. There was always a Calumet officer with them, but the first time Lenk and Colborn went, they were with one officer who was watching them very closely, and they could not have planted anything if they wanted to. Now, the second time they went with Kocharski, or whatever his name is, he admits to sitting on the bed doing paperwork. He wasn't completely watching them like he suspected them of doing any wrongdoing, so he's not watching them that closely. He's just present in the room while they're searching. So it is possible that they could have very easily dropped a key without him knowing.
Of all places, you knew it was important that you make sure that these Manitowoc officers not be alone.
Correct.
And so you kept an eye on them, didn't you?
I was watching what they were doing, yes.
And on November 8th, when Lenk found the key, he was under the observation of a Calumet sheriff's deputy named Daniel Koharski, who testified that there was no reasonable way Lenk could have snuck in the key and then stashed it in the back of the nightstand bookshelf from which it fell.
Theory was then that this key and the cloth fob and the plastic buckle somehow managed to come out that back corner, walk around the side, and lay like that.
The bookshelf was pulled away, turned, searched, and it was reasonable that while it was turned away, it fell into that area.
Okay. But you didn't hear it hit the floor whenever it got there, right?
Correct, the floor is carpeted.
And that's a perfectly reasonable explanation as to why the key wouldn't make a sound hitting the floor. Remember, the fob was cloth, and there was only one key on it, meaning there weren't several keys jingling together. If there...
Okay. Now, Colburn is testifying that he, on the second day that he's in there searching with Link and Kucharski, that he is pulling items out of this little bookshelf, separating them, deciding what is evidence that they're going to take and what is going to be put back in the bookshelf. He admits that he's, from what it sounds like, he's basically disgusted by the things that he's finding, like leg irons, handcuffs, Playboy magazines, things like that, whatever. And he admits to, once he's got the thing all cleaned out of the items, he turns it over and looks at the bottom to make sure there's no secret compartment under there or anything, and the key's not taped up or turned in the back or anything like that. He checks the thing over, and he says he handles it really roughly, he admits. And when he's putting the items back into the bookshelf, he says he's basically just throwing them in there. He's handling it really roughly. I don't care how rough you handle something. If a key was to get knocked loose from somewhere, and you're right there throwing shit in there, you would probably notice, even though it's carpeted floor, you would probably notice it. Even if you don't notice it right then, even if you don't notice it right then, you might notice it when you stand up, okay? Because, you're getting up. Colburn gets up and he goes over and he starts to look around while Link goes out to the living room to get a box to put more evidence in. They need a bigger box. So Link goes out to the living room to get a bigger box, and Colburn goes on to another area to start searching. When Link comes back into the room, hey, there's a key on the floor. Right there where Colburn just was, right there. And, I'm sorry, but something like a key, pretty noticeable, I think, out in the middle of nowhere. It was a couple inches away from the bookshelf and away from the wall, so it was just kind of out in the middle of where the bookshelf was and where the slippers were sitting. I don't believe it fell out of the back, even though the back was knocked loose, probably from Colburn throwing the items back into the bookshelf roughly. If when the thing was cleaned out, there's nowhere for a key to have been wedged without being seen, because we're talking about a little thin piece of backing, I guess, on the back of a cheap piece of furniture. It's not a big solid piece of wood back there. It's a little thin piece of crap that you can easily just break with your hands that was knocked loose at the bottom. I mean, there's just nowhere for that key to have been hiding. Once the bookshelf was cleaned out and he's flipping it around, he would have been able to see this or something. But anyway.
There was noise from the moving of the bookshelf. That noise could have very easily obscured a single key falling to a carpeted floor. Moreover, in order to demonstrate that Link planted the key in that bookshelf in the first place, the defense would have had to establish that Link at some point beforehand came into possession of the key. No witness ever saw Link with the key. There was no sweat or touch DNA or any sort of DNA from Link or anyone else for that matter on that key. Except, that is, for DNA from Stephen Avery.
Okay. I don't personally believe that Link planted the key somewhere in that bookshelf. I don't think he did. I mean, you think about Colburn is getting up and he's going over to another part of the room to start searching. Charsky guy's sitting on the bed filling out paperwork for all the evidence that they're collecting. Neither of them are watching, okay? I don't know if Colburn is aware of this or involved in this. I have no idea. But I do believe that Link, as he's maybe walking out of the room just past the bookshelf, drops it on the floor on his way out, because he doesn't come all the way back into the room when he stops and says, hey, there's a key on the floor. So I believe as he's walking out, he could throw it on the floor, like you said, cloth fob, one key, not going to make a lot of noise on a carpeted floor. I have no reason to believe that he could not have just easily flicked that right out of his pocket or cupped it in his hand and dropped it on his way out and not been seen. So, that's how I think the key got there, that Link just dropped it on his way out to go grab a box conveniently and then comes back in, oh, hey, there's a key. It's just, a little too suspicious because no one else found that key before. Colburn didn't see it when he was banging that thing around and flipping it all over the place. I just don't think it was there before. So...
Again, that DNA likely came from sweat or touch and not the blood from a cut on Avery's finger, although that conceivably could have been a possibility. In any event, his DNA was found on her car key in his bedroom.
Okay, but her DNA was not found on it. Also, if you look at that key looks brand new. Alright, I'm going to show you something. Like, watch, I'm seriously doing this right now, right in front of everybody. Here's my purse. Okay. This is what I do with my spare key. I've got a little pocket inside my purse. This is my Toyota spare key. I've used this exactly one time since I've had the car in 2000. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this because, weirdness. It does not say Toyota on it, but it was a brand new key when I got the car in 2007. Oh, sorry, it's just not clear. Let's see. Maybe I can get the light better. Nope, it's just not going to show very well. Anyway, sorry. I can see right here in this little line, this little groove here, this little line, there is some sort of dirt or something stuck up in there. Okay, there's scratches all over this key. I can still see the marks where it was made, but they're really dulled out. And like I said, I've used this key exactly one time because it's not my main car key. This is my main set of car keys right here. It's got a lot of crap on it. My main car key, which is extremely worn. But anyway, like I said, that key has just been carried around in my purse for, since 2007 or so. Brand new key when I got it. And I'm sorry, but that key that was found looked brand new. It was not dirty. It didn't have her DNA on it. There was nothing there. So I have a problem believing that was not a key just made. And during my research and things, I've found out some really cool information that you can call in with the VIN number of a Toyota, and probably any other vehicle, to the dealership or to some other place who would have a Toyota key with the VIN number, and they can just have a key made for you and ready for you to come pick up. Now, if you're a police officer or a detective or somebody with some connections, maybe you wouldn't have to show paperwork that you own the vehicle. You could say, hey, this is a missing girl, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, whatever. We're friends and we won't tell nobody about this stuff. Whatever it is, it can be done. And I don't know that wasn't done, because this is such a brand new looking key. I have a problem believing that this was her spare. It is possible that it was her spare and it just somehow she kept it perfect. The key fob part, the blue cloth part, did look dirty and worn, like maybe it had been carried around in her purse or something like that. So the two things don't really match, and I don't have any problem believing that they might have found that or gotten that somehow and put the key on there. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where they found the other part of the lanyard. I have no idea. I believe, but I'm not sure, that it was hanging from her rearview mirror. But I don't know that 100% for sure. But there's lots of ways that I think Link could have gotten the key on his own or been given the key. Like in my example before with Colburn, if the brother, the roommate, the ex-boyfriend, someone like Pam Sturm, someone that knows the family, maybe one of those people had her spare key that they kept just in case she locked herself out of her car. Maybe they had it and gave it to Colburn when he came out and ran the plates. And, you know, he's like, hey, we can't find this car this way. You know, we might not be able to admit anything we find in it as evidence if we find it illegally. So we just let us handle it. If they had a spare key, they gave it to him. I'm sure that Link, that's why I want to see his phone records. I want to see who he called, because I imagine he probably called Link, and I imagine they might have even talked with the sheriff. What do we do about this? And it took him a couple of days to set it all up, but I believe that they arranged for her car to be found right where Colburn had seen it before. I believe it was already there on the property. Possibly. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to cut this off here and go on to the next video.